We're Hasani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hasani.
I'm Joel.
I'm Janella.
And I'm Lakeisha.
And we're Couples Academy practitioners here this morning to do one thing: answer your questions. So whether you're single, dating, in a committed courtship, engaged, or married, Couples Academy is here for you this morning. So wherever you're dialing in, tuning in, logging in from around the world, we want to know your city, state, country so that we can represent you. Listen, don't be timid. Don't be shy. Don't vacillate back and forth about asking your question. This is the place that you want to come. There's so much bad information online. People are following people who are not experts. People are hashtagging fate, just doing all types of things, quotable statements that have no wisdom, that make no sense, and they're heading you down into a pit. And here's the place where you can get revelation, inspiration, and proper application for your life. All right. So before we do that, this is October. As you know, there's a lot coming up throughout the course of the remainder of this year. This weekend actually is a last chance weekend. But for those who are excited about transforming their life, November and December, we have 2 more before the end of the year. We want you to sign up. We want you to register because it's going to be transformational for your life. So November the 11th through the 13th and December the 9th through the 11th. Those are the dates. Make sure that you get in as soon as you can because it's going to be transformational. Also, Foundry is on its way, guys. Foundry is January the 20th through the 22nd. You can register in the link within the description of the video. Men are signing up quickly. We want to make sure that if you're a member of Foundry, you get your space because it's going to be like none other. I know that the Unearthed event was nice. It was cute, right? But what we do is on a whole nother level. I heard it was nice.
It sounds like you put some shade out there.
The hate is real. It's hateration. It's hateration is what it is.
It was fantastic.
All right, guys. So let's jump in. We've got a comment from Ben. Ben is a regular listener. He says, my question, how do you get your spouse to stop putting effort in things that don't matter to me and start working on the issues that I value? I can't break through to my stubborn 5. And yes, a fair partner was a 2.
Good morning, Ben. How are you, my love? The way that you get your spouse to value issues that matter to you are to value issues that matter to her. In addition to that, let go of your affair partner. You can't keep looking back, reminiscing, ruminating, fantasizing, longing for, craving, desiring your affair partner and thinking that you're giving 100% into your marriage because you're not. It's unrealistic and it is a false sense of reality if you think you are giving 110% in your marriage if you're still missing your affair partner. So close the door on the old chapter, focus on starting a new one with your wife, value the things that are important to her, and she will value the things that are important to you. And you got to heal the past first because that has not been done. So you can't move forward until you actually have that healing, and that hasn't transpired yet in yourself or in your spouse.
There's a phenomenal book called What Radical Husbands Do. And it's a 12-step process to win your spouse's heart back or to fall back in love with your spouse, to restore the relationship. And one of those steps is to burn your boats, right? So what are boats? Boats represent a plan B, an alternative pathway. They represent another option. Now, the boat can actually be a physical, breathing, walking, talking human being in the form of a woman that you're constantly comparing your spouse to, that if things don't work out, you'll go down that path. Or the boat could be a thought in your mind, a figment of your imagination, someone that you're comparing it to. And so, as long as you have a boat, I don't care if it's a cruise liner or a tugboat, you will always have a tendency of thinking more about the alternative and less about the spouse. But when there is no one or nothing to compare your spouse to, you begin to see your spouse in a different light through a different lens, and it will allow for the healing and the restoration of your relationship. But so ultimately, I think what Lakeisha's talking about, what I'm talking about, is the comparisons. As long as you're comparing, it's always going to be a problem. And we know that this is not an issue that just resides within the question, but this is a common issue that many people have experienced when they've come to us for counseling. So, Jewel and Janella, I want you to speak in on this whole idea of comparing an affair partner to your spouse.
Janella, you can go.
Well, in a marriage, you cannot be successful if you're including someone else in it. You have to keep it between the two of you. If you're thinking of someone else, fantasizing over someone else, daydreaming, it actually makes you look back. It's no moving forward with that. And actually, the comparison can almost be the death of your relationship. So comparison is not healthy. It will not promote growth. The marriage just cannot move forward.
And your unity is, you have a unity between you, God, and your wife. Your wife should be your first primary. You asked about, whether or not her needs, how to meet your needs. Well, what about hers? And if you're focusing more on your affair partner and not your wife, how do you expect anything to move forward? So the same energy that you're putting into someone else, you have to put into that one that is there with you every day. That woman that is, you wake up to every day, that you go to bed with every night, the one who takes care of you when you're sick. That is the person that, the one you said I do to, that you asked to marry, is the person that you need to focus on.
Absolutely, absolutely. So great point, and I hope that helps Ben in your situation. And we're praying for the restoration of your marriage, and that all things begin to go well. This is from Francisco. Haven't seen you in a while, brother. It's good to see you. It's been a year since you've experienced the Last Chance Weekend. Just so everyone knows, these people saved my partnership. First time in a while I've made a live, but haven't missed an episode. Thank you, Hasani. This is truly your calling. I appreciate that. We're all called to do this work, and I'm glad that we were able to align that weekend. And what's so powerful, he said partnership. He's saying the word partnership because they're not married. So oftentimes the question is, well, do you work with non-married people? I mean, it's okay. Is there a space for us? Absolutely. And overwhelmingly, most married couples say, man, I wish I knew about this before we said I do. Because if we did, maybe we could avoid some of the pitfalls and the hurdles and the stumbling blocks that we got ourselves caught into. So good to see you. Glad everything's going well. Love you guys. Listen, I want to get into a conversation because it seems like we always wind up circling around to this very point. Communication, hands down, continues to be the number one Achilles heel that people struggle with in their relationship. And it looks different for every couple. We know that, right? Based upon personality dynamics, relational interactions, all of that. But if you could speak, like if you could give us what you think the number one technique, word of advice would be to how to effectively communicate with your spouse, what would each of you say? What has made the difference in your relationship?
For me, I would say I had to learn to respect my husband. And what I mean by that is when you respect someone and you respect the fact that they have different opinions, they have different views, they see things differently. And I didn't see the things that he saw, didn't mean that he was wrong, didn't mean that I was wrong. But when I respected him to listen, and when he respected me to listen to how I felt as well, it was easier for us to communicate. Because at that point now, I'm like, okay, even though I don't agree, I hear you. He may not agree, I hear you. And then we just came together and said, okay, this is how you feel. This is how I feel. Now let's figure it out. But if I didn't have, when I didn't have any respect for what he had to say, I heard nothing that he said.
So what I'm hearing is it's not just what you say, how you say what you say, because that's the outer expression of one's communication, but the internal essence, it's your posture, your disposition, your attitude towards. If you have no respect for your partner, it's going to be hard to effectively communicate and honor them with your words. But if there's a level of respect, it impacts how you engage with your partner. That's an excellent tip. Janella, what say you?
I'd say when we enter the communication with empathy, when that was the life changer for us, just to be able to hear and have the necessary compassion to understand where my husband was coming from in our communication and vice versa. That was a life changer for us for communication, just being able to empathize and really understand what was trying to be articulated or what his needs were and vice versa. Our communication went to a whole nother level, and things that may have taken us months or days to work through, we were able to get through those conversations, cut the time down, and get back to the business of loving on one another and just enjoying life together. So entering into communication with a sense of empathy was a life changer for us.
Empathy, which is critically important. We talk about empathy and compassion, and that is seeing things through your partner's eyes, hearing things through your partner's ears, and feeling things with your partner's heart. So in essence, it's putting yourself in their shoes, walking in their journey, because it gives you a different perspective and allows you to see things in a different way. So number one, we have respect, right? Number two, we have empathy. Lakeisha, bring it on home.
Man, listen, his needs, her needs. It was so important. And it's so funny because my husband and I literally just had a conversation about this morning. Because when we entered into marriage, my husband was so connected and tied to his family. There was not space. There wasn't room for me. And I was constantly fighting to be the number one priority next to God, of course. But I was fighting to be the priority and have my position in our relationship. So it became all about my needs. And I completely disregarded his needs because I'm just fighting to be heard. I'm fighting to have a position. I'm fighting to just be that number one in your life. So for me, when I got outside of that, understanding that even though he's not making me a priority right now, I still need to do the right thing. I still need to make him priority because it is the right thing to do. And forgiveness and giving grace and just understanding that we are imperfect people. So we're going to mess up. And nobody really told us, like walked us through this marriage thing. So we're on the job training, literally trying to figure it out. And like I said, the more I understood that I got to show up the right way, regardless of how he's showing up, I got to be the change I want to see. I got to lead by example. That's when things begin to shift and change.
Guys, you're watching the Couples Academy show. I hope you're getting something out of this particular Ask the Experts. We have room for a whole lot more. I see some questions that are coming in, but what we're going to do is go to a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. When 45 men from all walks of life come together in one place for one purpose, there is a collective harmony that produces an amplification of power that leaves an impact on the lives of men that cannot be erased. A fraternity of legendary men, all at the tipping point, on the precipice of greatness, meeting for one weekend to turn their worlds inside out. For the first time ever, the Foundry experience. Not an event, not a seminar or retreat, but an opportunity to come face to face with the man you were always destined to be. If you want a life that's better than the one that you are living, meet us January 2023 for the Foundry Experience. All right, guys, we're back. You're watching the Couples Academy show. As you know, this is Friday. It's Ask the Experts. It's your opportunity to ask your question so that we can give you the answers that you need that will help restore your relationship. We have a comment. November 16th will be 1 year from D-Day. I know we have grown a lot and are both changing, but I'm starting to feel that all that hurt and anger all over again. How do I push through these feelings? That's a very good question. So what you're facing is the 1 year anniversary. And that particular date is always going to be a triggering time because you're reminded of what happened last year. And so while we want you to push through it, we also want you to sit in it. Now, that may seem contradictory. Why would we want you to sit in the pit of your pain? Because when people try to race out of a feeling, in essence, they're taking that feeling with them everywhere they go. There's a 12-week program that Couples Academy has called Unearthing. And in the process of unearthing and finding your healing, you have to deal with the pain. You have to face the pain. You have to do some heavy lifting. You have to do some work. I could speak on it, but I probably couldn't articulate it as well as these women. So listen, I want you all to speak to her because she's facing a 1 year anniversary. What would an unearthing process look like for her to bring her to a place of healing?
This would be the perfect time that you take that day and you replace it with a good memory. Go somewhere, do something, spend that quality time. When those days come and you don't want to sit there and think about what happened last year, take a vacation. So use that day. So when this time comes next year, whatever you did this year, that's what you're going to remember. That's the emotion you're going to feel. That's the memory you're going to see.
We know that healing is definitely a choice. And with Couples Academy, we have the Unearthed program. It's 12 weeks. It will be phenomenal for you to link up with some sisters to help you continue your healing process, because this is still fairly new. It's 1 year. So you're still dealing with a lot of fresh emotions, rightfully so, because it can be very devastating, damaging, but you have done a lot of work to get to this space and you want to continue in that. So Unearth is a process to give you that space for yourself to deal with those feelings, those remnants, those leftovers that you're still having, and you can unpack that in a safe way with women to support you through that understand where you are, where you won't feel judged, and you can actually have a place of release and get that total, complete healing that you want. So when that day comes, like Jules say, you'll have a new perspective, a fresh perspective, that it won't cause so much hurt and harm in your relationship that it may be causing now. So Unearthed is a beautiful process, and we have that for you.
Lakeisha, I want you to answer this particular question. My husband had an affair for over 6 months. I found out right after giving birth and went into postpartum. Once out of it, I started to think about the affair, and he would say, "It's over." He was over it. So is she continuing? Oh yeah, she's continuing. All right. So I should have been, guys. One day I felt an overwhelming amount of feelings, and we argued, and I ended up busting his windows. Man, you bust the windows out of his car? He moved out and said, we need to get through a separation, but I just feel he just wants to, the book, be free. So how do I know if he's truly planning to come back after all of this? Lakeisha.
Hey, Stephanie. So, sis, we've all been there with the thoughts, at least. I can't say that we've all acted on breaking up some, busting up something. We've all been there with the emotions and the feelings, though. And it sounds like you let the emotions overtake you, understandably so. You got to control that. You got to get control over those emotions, because as much as you're hurting and you're in pain, you can't continue to act out in that way. How do you know if he's truly planning to come back after all of this? You don't know. You don't know. But while you're in the process of waiting, work on healing. Work on gaining control of your emotions, controlling what you can control, which is you, your thoughts, your actions. That's all you can control. You cannot control him. So you need to spend this time working on becoming your best self, healing from the pain of infidelity. Postpartum, I understand that. I went through that, and it is a very painful place to be. So you got to handle your mental health. That is first and foremost, because if you don't do that, when he does come back, you won't be ready. And it's only going to escalate even more if you don't deal with the emotional health issues that you need to take care of. So you need to focus on you right now, get yourself to the healthiest place you can be, and control what you can control.
There it is. CJ says, Unearthed saved me. I'm facing my anniversary. We're planning a trip to replace that memory. So that even speaks to, the 1-year anniversary. What do we do? And that's the whole point that we talk about. You have to create a completely different experience, a positive, healthy experience, so that year 2, you're thinking about what happened on the 1st-year anniversary, not what happened on the D-Day. So that's a powerful, powerful point. Jewel, I want you to jump in on this one. My husband had an affair in July. He still works with her and went to lunch with her to meet a client, work-related. So he says, how do I deal? I'm so broken and hurt because they drove together. Oh, man.
Oh, God. Wow. Have you guys set boundaries? I mean, I understand that they work together, but considering that she is the affair partner, there has to be some boundaries set for if they have to work in an atmosphere to where they have to be together. There's going to have to be something there. She should have rolled by herself. He could have met her there. Stephanie, I think you guys both need to sit down and say what is going to be acceptable and what is not. Your husband's going to have to understand how you feel about this situation, as well as he's going to have to give some thought. Is his job more important than your marriage? Is, having this relationship as far as work related with this individual, can he swap out? Can he work with someone else? There has to be a lot of conversation had about this.
Yeah, at the end of the day, there've got to be non-negotiables. I mean, the fact that you still work in the same building, the same company with your former affair partner is a trigger within itself. But then having to interact, what I would say, in a social way, I can't imagine that this is a required work-specific task that you have to do over a meal. No. So to me, he's trying to pull the okie doke on you. Don't fall for the banana and tailbite. That is a straight up trick and is a form of manipulation and control. And I wouldn't go for it. And at the end of the day, if you don't have boundaries, if you don't have a shared value system in terms of how he operates, then you're constantly going to be triggered. It's going to continue to breed mistrust. And it's just a slippery slope headed in the wrong direction. So if you need help establishing certain boundaries, because that's what, in essence, Jules talking about, reach out to us, because we go through what we call the 19 signs of a close call friendship and boundaries you need to establish as a result of them. All right, I have another question. I'm going to go to you, Janella. JD says, my anniversary is next week, and me and my wife are still separated, and it's been 2 years. Any suggestions on what type of gift I can give during a separation?
Well, this is a good one, because you definitely want to tune into what are the things that she likes. I don't know if you know her love languages or if she has spoken to the gifts that she likes. So you may even want to ask her. That might be a first thing if you don't know what it is that she wants. But if it's something from the heart and something that you know that she would enjoy, just give it to her. I mean, don't hold back. I know that you're separated, but if the goal is to get back together, give all in, show up, bring the gift, give her yourself, give her what she's looking for. And I think that will say a lot about where you're trying to go and how you feel about her.
Lakeisha, I want you to weigh on that, and then I'm going to send the next question over to you as well.
The gift?
Yes, the gift.
Yes, I love gifts. Thank you, Hasani. So yeah, it needs to be something sentimental, something from the heart. It definitely needs to be something that speaks to what it is that you desire to have moving forward. It may be a heartfelt letter. It may be a journal. Maybe you take a week and every day you just journal whatever thoughts come up for you about your spouse, any regrets that you have, being able to just pour into your spouse about all of the things that you love, all the things that you miss, your commitments that you're willing to give moving forward. And so maybe it's just you get a beautiful journal that you just write from the heart and you present that to her. And but it definitely needs to be something that speaks from the heart. It's not about the money, especially if she's a gift person. It's not about the money. It's really about the thought, the time, the effort, right, that you put into it.
Ben asked a question. What if your spouse doesn't give you a safe space to communicate? They can't handle courageous conversations. I've given up unless we talk to a counselor. So let me just say, you keep telling us what your personality style is. You're an 8, right? So let's just assume for a second you're not at your healthiest. Let's assume your wife, I think she's a 5. She's not at her healthiest. Then the way that you two communicate is going to be disastrous. You may come with some brute force, dominating, angry type of tone, and she may come with sarcasm or the complete shutdown. And neither of you, when you're unhealthy, won't operate and function in the right way. I often hear you ask the question, what about she? And what is she's not doing and how she's showing up? And so my question is, well, how are you showing up? Are you helping to create the safe environment? Do you both have a working operational definition of what safe even looks like? Do you because what safe means for you may be different than what it means to her just based upon the wiring. And when we say courageous conversations, which is important for us to have, how are we approaching the courageous conversation? Oftentimes, when you're dealing with emotions between two romantic partners, there's a whole lot of noise that gets in the midst of the conversation that wouldn't be there if you were talking to a non-romantic partner. There's past hurts, past pains. There's a lot going on here. Unresolved issues, faulty assumptions, misinterpretations, attaching different meanings to what each other is saying. And so this is why sometimes, if you can't do it on your own, if you're not using tools like the marriage negotiation worksheet, you do need a counselor to kind of navigate you through that conversation to get you to a better place. I know that you wanted to weigh in on that, Lakeisha, and then you two are free to weigh in as well to speak to Ben.
So, Ben, I'm so glad that you're here live because I know often you don't have an opportunity to be, and without putting all your business out there, the situation is this. There was trauma that has happened in the past that has not been resolved. I know for a fact on your part, I don't know about your spouse, but I know that there has been past trauma that you brought into your marriage that has taken place during the marriage that has not been healed. It hasn't been resolved. And so we have a tendency to project those things onto our spouses. So you have got to deal with your individual hurts, pains, traumas that took place. And I know that there has been trauma that's been inflicted on your spouse as a result of your interaction and communication with her. So she has trauma too. And so it's hard for people to be open and receive and show up as their best selves and have these courageous conversations when they're constantly being stabbed every single time they interact with one another. So Hasani, you hit the nail right on the head. The communication definitely being, you come in hot, she shuts down. So you guys really need assistance in healing those past hurts. so that you can show up in a conversation without the residue and all the other things attached to it.
Angel and I'm sorry, Janella and Jewel, I want you to actually hit this question here. This is part one. How do you learn to trust when spouse was so good at hiding? Found texts, then she deleted them, found deleted texts, then she found a secret app to talk on. I feel like I never trust because, part two, she just keeps finding different ways to trick me. Everything else has always been great. This is a good one. This is a good one. How do we begin? The question is, how do you learn to trust when the spouse was so good at hiding?
The only way that you can learn to trust is through consistency. If they're not showing up, once you put those guidelines in place and have those conversations, it's going to take time for it to build. But if they're not doing anything trustworthy, there will be no trust. So once you put those things in place to show trust, being consistent, being open and honest is the only way that you'll ever reach the feeling of feeling trust, knowing that trust even exists in a relationship.
Sitting and having a conversation with her, basically explaining to her that you want your marriage and you want things to work and you want to be able to trust her again, and explaining to her that as long as these behaviors continue, it's going to be very hard for you to trust her. You know, she's going to have to be open and willing to close those apps, stop that communication, allow you to be in her phone, you know, at any given time. That is the only way that you're going to be able to trust her in this situation.
There's something called the policy of radical honesty, and there are 4 components of that policy of radical honesty. You have historical honesty, current, right now, in the present moment honesty, future honesty, and then emotional honesty. So as relates to current honesty, that means everything's got to be opened up. I need access to communication, cell phone, email, social media, because there's been such a deficit created because of the clandestine behavior that I'm naturally going to be suspicious about everything. And just because you say, I'm not doing it anymore, you can trust me, is not enough. So going back to that word consistency, there's got to be consistent behavior of transparency and integrity that I can believe in, because trust is restored over time. You've heard us say it, all of us have said it, that trust is lost in buckets and gained in drops. So it's not going to come back as quickly as it was lost. It's going to take some time. And good. Hopefully you're not doing it anymore. But because of what you've done, there's got to be a period where the trust is restored. And I want to be all up in your business to prove what you're saying to be true. And once I have found that, I can begin to trust you. All right. Here's another question. I think I want to end with this because of our time. The question is this: is sex okay during separation? He claims that he wants to only have sex with me and nobody else, even when we're living separate. We are still married, but he had the affair, so I don't trust that. So, you know, I'll start off, and Lakeisha, we got to go to you because you're the sex expert,
Yes.
right? So, you know, during the separation, my question is, are you in a separation which is one step closer to divorce, or are you in a controlled separation because you're trying to restore the relationship? If you're trying to restore the relationship, and there should be some guidelines and some parameters and some principles that you both operate by. That would come with working with a counselor. That would come with a work day and a play day. And so from my perspective, I think when you begin to engage in sex while separated, you're doing more of what you were doing when you were living together. Like, there's got to be a period in a season where you, in essence, go on a sex fast, but really it's an opportunity to reestablish intimacy. Think about when you were dating and you had sex too quickly, right? There was a developmental lag, a relational developmental lag, because the main focus became about sex. The main activity became about sex. So you know more about their breasts, their penises, their vaginas, their hips, their thighs, than their interests, their passions, their character, all of those different things. So when you're separated for the purpose of reestablishing a healthy relationship, I would say remove sex so it doesn't cloud what it is that you're trying to do. Because once you have it, emotions begin to kick in, chemicals are released. And so you think you're ready for something you're not ready for because you're getting caught up in a feeling and you haven't developed the true foundation. Lakeisha, please, this is your area of expertise.
Yes, thank you, Stephanie, for your question. I just would like to say it pains me to tell married people not to have sex. However, I am in total 100% agreement with Hasani. Stephanie, sex clouds our judgment. It convolutes things. It confuses us. And the reality is, if you guys have not had a conversation and you don't have boundaries, he could be sleeping with you and someone else. So there has to be conversation, again, to establish what is it that we're doing. We're separated for a reason. Why did we separate? What were we trying to accomplish during this separation? And honestly, you need to give him time to miss you and miss your good stuff, okay? And cause him to focus on what's most important, which is connecting in all of those other realms, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and then the physical will flow.
I think your next episode on your show should be let him miss your good stuff.
Can I be a guest, please?
Yes.
Give him time to miss your good stuff. Listen, guys, we hope that you got something out of today's session. This is Ask the Experts. Tune in on Friday. You just never know what you're going to get, but wisdom continues to flow. We hope that you have an amazing weekend. See you Monday for another great episode. Love you all. Take care.